Whenever you talk about sex, you never know who's going to come. That word scares some people. Other people intrigues them. So we're going to be talking this week and next week. I have more information that I'm probably actually going to be covering. But whether you have teenagers or preteens or you're around teenagers, this is what they're thinking about. All right, this is what they're thinking about. This is what adults think about. It's what human beings think about. And if us as parents and leaders don't talk to them about that, then the culture is going to talk to them about that. So Walt Mueller, he's an expert in youth ministry, teenagers. He says, I like to think of culture as the soup in which our teenagers swim around and soak every day. The soup's ingredients include values, attitudes, and behaviors, as well as the media, peer group, language, and so on that express them. To know kids, we must lift the lid on the soup pot and see what's in the mix. So I have 3 teenagers. My one son just graduated high school, and then I have 2 daughters. And during my kids' teenage years, I have leaned into talking to them more about sex than not talking about sex. Even though I would rather not talk to them about sex and have somebody else do it. But I know if I don't do it, everybody else is going to do it. Now, the challenge is always this. What if I talk to them about something and not even thinking about it yet? And then what if I unearth something? If you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. So you as the parent have to lean in and bring things up to them. If not, that banner ad on the internet will. Some unbeknownst person will say 50 Shades of Grey. What's 50 Shades of Grey? Just a couple years ago, a teenager, somebody just mentioned this, 50 Shades of Grey. And they put in the search bar 50 Shades of Grey. And all kinds of stuff was shown to them about 50 Shades of Grey. And then from there, they went into hardcore porn within a few hours. So this little 13-year-old, they got curious about it. So I just want you guys are hearing about these things. We're going to talk about, I'm going to briefly just mention the things. Think about, I need to bring this up. Okay. So let's look at just a couple scriptures here. Some very popular ones here in the Old Testament. 1 Chronicles 12:23. These are the numbers of the men armed for the battle who came to David at Hebron to turn Saul's kingdom over to him, as the Lord had said. So it's going through the different numbers of soldiers and stuff. And then from Issachar, men who understood the times and knew what Israel should do. So for us as parents or leaders, instead of men who understood the times, parents who understood the times and knew what their children should do. Or grandparents knew the times and knew what their children should do or what they're going to be facing every single day here in 2021. When it comes to adolescent teen relationships, dating, and sexuality, what is the same as always and what is different? So right now I want you guys to get in either with your spouse or just people around you. And today, what is different about dating, sexuality, relationships compared to when you were teenagers? So what is different and then what is the same? Go and take 3 minutes and talk to people around your little group there. What's the same and what is different with these 3 things? You got 3 minutes. Take about 2 more minutes. Hey guys. Hi. We're just talking about sex. Take about 30 more seconds.
You never be prepared.
All right. So let me hear from a couple of you. What is the same? What is the same back when you guys were teenagers compared to today? Temptations are still around, right? Nothing new about temptations. They were when you guys were teens and today. What else is the same?
Young boys are infatuated with the body.
Oh, young boys. Man, so just last week, I took some students to the dinosaur park on Glen Rose, and we were walking. Some of you guys been to Glen Rose, there's dinosaur tracks and stuff. We're walking down the trail, and there's a girl in front, not one of our girls, but a girl in front that's walking in a bikini. And I hear a couple of guys behind me saying, man, check out that girl. Check out that, man, look at her. And so we get down to the beach, and I'm like, I had all the guys, not all the guys did this, but there's about 4 or 5. I say, hey, what were you guys saying back there? What are you talking about? The girl with the bikini in front of us. Nothing. But guys, I heard what you were saying about her hips and so forth. Oh, sorry. I'm like, guys, you have to decide what kind of guy you want to be. Either a guy that's full of lust or a guy that's full of God, that honors girls, that doesn't, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. So yes, guys are infatuated with girls' bodies, right? And these were 13-year-olds, right? You don't have to, puberty was already going through them. All right, what else is the same?
Relationships are emotionally driven, very emotionally driven.
Very emotionally driven, right? That's why some people, they start dating at 13 and they break up 3 weeks later because that person made me mad, right? They got a little fight. What else is the same today compared to when you guys were teens? All right, what about different? What's different today when it comes to sex, relationships, compared to when you guys were teens?
Yeah, like 2 different relationships. One that's virtual.
Oh, there it is. Right? When you guys older or had relation, or when you were teens, you had to talk to somebody. And today, you can talk to somebody through the phone. Much different. What else is different?
You're getting younger and younger when their expectations for dating.
Okay, getting even younger and younger expectations for dating. It's good.
Gender confusion.
Gender confusion. People are non-binary. Okay, maybe I'm bi. They're just hearing these things, and maybe they're dealing with that.
Cultural boundaries have changed dramatically.
Cultural boundaries, right? When you guys were younger, maybe your grandparents, I want to hold your hand, right? And today I want to sex you up. Just totally different there as far as the messaging and songs. Yep. Cardi B. I mean, Cardi B, what she does today, that kids listen to her songs, compared to maybe some of the songs you guys grew up with, is completely different. Anything else different?
The availability of information. They can find anything they want, and they don't even have to look for it.
Don't have to look for it. Again, it's looking for them, right? So, again, me growing up, if I wanted to look at pornography, there was a magazine behind the gas station, right? I had to go up there, and of course, I'm not going to ask the guy, hey, can I see that? Not going to happen. Today, they can look at it immediately. So good. So we as leaders here need to remember to keep calm. It's only puberty. It's only puberty that they are going through. They are becoming a young man, young woman. Again, they girls had cooties, and now they're beautiful, right? Guys were weird, but now guys are interesting to the ladies. So that is happening. We got to be calm as they're going through this, because maybe your parents weren't calm when you went through this. And we're going to talk about this here in a little bit. All right, so what is the saying? Yes, sexual exploration. Those guys that were there walking down the trail at Glen Rose, they were exploring that girl's body. That is totally normal. Now, what if I would have not addressed that? Would I have been like, boys will be boys. Boys just look at hips. Boys just look at chests. That's just what they do. Then that'd be me saying it's okay to do that. But me as a leader, when I see that or hear that, I address that. I tell them it's normal to think this way as a guy, but as a godly guy, we don't focus on that. Okay, we don't like, that's what. No, we learn to train ourselves to be disciplined and not to lust. So exploration is happening everywhere. People are exploring on the internet. They're exploring with their friends. They're talking about it. They're doing it. Think about when you guys were teenagers. How did you explore your sexuality? Did you keep it in your mind? Were you not interested in it? Were you highly interested in it? They're building a philosophy of sexuality. Okay? They are building this philosophy. You as the leaders, you want to be the main person to help them build that. You want to. Again, you have to talk to them about this. What if it's not comfortable for you? It's okay. You push through that uncomfortability. A few years ago, we offered a class called, it was really Every Man's Battle, Every Woman's Battle, for fathers and sons, moms and daughters to go through. And there were some dads that would not go down there in that class. They just did not feel comfortable about it. Remember, if you don't feel comfortable about it, the devil feels very comfortable about it. This fall, we're going to offer another sexuality class for fathers and sons, moms and daughters. Okay, it's a brand new curriculum that we're going to be taking the parents through with their children, if you guys are interested in that. But you have to help them with that philosophy of sexuality, because the internet, again, is helping them. If you asked it or thought about it, they are too. Here's the problem. As you get older, you forget what it's like to be young. Okay, Brian here just got married. Brian, how old are you?
22.
He's 22. He already forgot what it's like to be 13. It's been 9 years. It's totally just been 9 years. For us, it's been decades. I mean, I remember going to the public school the first time. I remember getting off the bus as a sixth grader, and as we're walking into school, there was a condom on the tree. Somebody just threw a condom on the tree. I mean, the sixth grader, and people were joking, left. I had no idea what the condom was. But because I had a good relationship with my parents, I asked them about it. Hey, what is this thing? Okay. And they told me about it. But what if they said that we don't talk about that stuff? Oh, my parents aren't going to help me with the culture. Okay. They're not going to help me with my philosophy of sexuality. So if you thought about it, if you wondered about it, if you did it, your kids may want to do it, are going to do it, or even worse, might be doing it more than you thought about it. Middle, high school, social structures. Now, what if your kid is not in the public school and they're homeschooled? Well, maybe they don't deal with sexual stuff. Okay, maybe they don't struggle with it. Maybe they don't. So I started talking to my son, Zach, around 10 years old. Okay, I started talking to him about sex stuff around 10 years old. And I started very general, and then we went more specifics as he got older and older. And again, like I said, I prefaced at the beginning, I was concerned if I brought up things to him, what if I open up a can of worms? Somebody else was going to open up the can of worms. I was going to make sure me as the father, I was going to do that. So starting around 10, 11 years old, started talking about girls. And again, he didn't like girls. It's 10 or 11 years old. But we started talking about penises, vaginas, all the real words and not all the fake words. Okay? The fake words are derogatory words. Right? All the stuff that I heard when I was in middle school. And so I want to encourage you, if you have somebody that you oversee, 10, 11, 12 years old, start bringing things up to them. Because in middle school, things are going to be brought up to them. All right? Let's go back to the Glen Rose. So Glen Rose, we are at our Glen Rose trip, we had about half girls, half guys. And so we're getting ready to have lunch. And all the guys went to one table, and some people are going to the bathroom. So the guys' table got kind of full, and then there was a few girls on this one picnic table, and one of the boys came out of the bathroom and just sat down with the girls. Why? Because that table was full. Didn't think anything about it. He's sitting down there, and all of a sudden I hear, "Hey, make your move. Make your move on her." That is a junior high social structure. You got a girlfriend yet? You got a girlfriend yet? I remember being in junior high and people say, hey, do you got a girlfriend yet? I had some uncles say those things. Do you have a girlfriend yet? Don't say that to boys. You're putting pressure on them to have a boy or girl. You got a boy? Don't do that. You are just adding on what they're already hearing with their friends. So I had to address that with the guys too. Okay. Guys, who said this? I don't know what you're talking about. They're like, oh, sorry, we did. We were just laughing, having fun. Guys, we're on a trip here. These girls don't want to hear about this guy making a move on them and all that. So the pressure of dating. In our youth, we have all kinds of people, they start dating, right? We've had kids in our youth group, they've had 6 girlfriends by the age of 12 because they dated 1 week, few days. You guys remember this time, dating, whatever. But there's all kinds of pressure about getting in relationships. Who trumps what? They're talking about it. Again, the who. You guys are the who. You have to get involved with the kids and bring things up to them. Just because you may not be thinking about it as much as you did with a teenager, they're wondering about this. They're thinking about this. All right, teens having intercourse. Do you guys think teens are having more sex today or 20 years ago? Why do you guys think today? Yeah. So we think it's today. Why? Because there's pornography everywhere. Do you guys think married couples are having more sex today or 20 years ago? Yep. People having sex has been going down since the early 1990s. It's been going down. One of the reasons going down is people are busier than ever. Okay, people are busier. More women are working than ever in the household. When people get tired, they just stop having intimacy. And so last year, maybe more last year because of COVID. So I just wanted to show you this. This is from the CDC, Center for Disease Control. We heard a lot about that this last year. But when it comes to teenagers having sexuality, it's really around the same. This is up till 2013. Hasn't changed a whole lot from 2002 to 2013. But then something started happening around 2013 that it significantly started going down with teenagers. And what happened was the prevalence of smartphones. You know, the iPhone came out around 2007, 2008, but it really started going around the teenagers right around that time. And so teenagers today used to have a lot of sex, and now it's below 40%. It's gone down significantly because of sexting. Okay, because when we were growing up, people would call it phone sex. Well, teenagers today now can just sex. They can talk graphically, and then they can actually send a nude picture. So when it comes to your teenagers that have a phone, 28% of them have received a naked picture from somebody. That's terrible, right? 28%. 15% have actually sent out a nude picture to somebody that they know, some stranger. When I was growing up, it was called flashing. Do you guys remember flashing? Driving down, some girls would be in a van and they would pull their top up. Okay, and I remember that happened to me one time as a teenager. Me and some friends were driving, some teenage girls did this. And that was once in my life. Now it's like 30%. 3 out of 10 teenagers are receiving this. So I want you to think about when you guys go to Sunday, our service today, look at all the teenagers, and almost 30% of them have received a nude picture on their phone. Right? These wonderful kids that are enjoying their friendships, worshiping, praying, and then they've received that. So that's something you guys need to talk to your teenagers about. What do you do when you receive a nude picture from somebody? Those of you guys have any kind of social media, you guys have all been befriended by somebody. This pretty girl, handsome guy, sent you a picture. They want to become your friend. Well, us as adults know this is some fat guy in a basement over in Russia that ultimately wants to get your money somehow, right? They ultimately want to get your money. But a teenager, they get something, you know, they ultimately get drawn into it. So sex is going down because of this. It's going down because of this, which is good news. We're glad that people are not having premarital sex, right? This is wonderful news, but they're having sex in different ways. And they're having sex through the phone here. Never married males, females, ages 15 to 19 had sexual intercourse. And again, you can see it just started going down up there to 2013, and then it's just gone down even more. So those of us that are married, we should be talking to, sharing with our kids about how wonderful married sex is. We got newlyweds right here, okay? I want to tell you that married sex gets better and better. I've been married 22 years. It was wonderful during our honeymoon, and it just gets better and better. These are the things that I talk to my kids about. I want to give them the philosophy of how wonderful it is to have marital intimacy. Why? Because all the TV shows, it shows that when you get married, you don't like each other anymore. You put up with each other. I grew up with a show called Married with Children. I don't know if you guys remember that show. The woman was highly sexualized, the guy was whatever. So my parents would address that kind of TV show with me, okay? Even though we didn't watch it. I saw the commercials and so forth. They would just talk about it. I want to encourage you guys to talk about your intimacy. You guys are creating the ideas of what their married life is going to be like. If not, they're unsure. So one of my latest conversations with my son, Zach, I said, Zach, with your mom and I, we had more sex, more intimacy until you guys became teenagers. And then once you guys became teenagers, we're driving around, taking them everywhere. Zach's going on basketball trips, hour and a half away. And so our time together has not gone down as much, but that's okay. Okay? Because you guys are getting ready to leave the house. Okay? Here in a few, you kind of do the whole joking with them. But I'm just sharing with him so he has an expectation of the blessings that are coming forth. And then my wife, so at the dinner table sometimes, and my kids don't like this. Okay, they don't like, it doesn't matter if they don't like this. Someone is going to share the philosophy with them. So we do that with our children. So this is some good news. They're having less sexual intercourse, but it's bad news because they're doing more of it on the phone. All right, now what is different? We've talked about that. We have the supercomputers in our hands. Again, impersonal communication. We've all seen people. It could be us. People are at a restaurant. They're all on their phones compared to talking to each other. Friends go out. They're all on their, on the phones, not talking to each other. I mean, we just took the students down to Student Leadership University in San Antonio. It's like a 6-hour drive down there. The whole drive down there, they weren't allowed to be on their tablets. They weren't allowed to be on their phone. They had to talk to each other. And it's amazing what happened. They were laughing, joking, having good times, playing Mafia, playing games. They were just getting to know each other, becoming friends, because we didn't want them to stay friends just with all their buddies on, texting or whatever. We wanted to engage in that. Again, impulsive digital actions. I never have done cocaine, but I understand cocaine. This is cocaine right here. This is heroin. This is meth. You guys know it. The buzzer can go off. Oh, what's that? Right? Oh, what's that there? Okay, this is a drug. This is a drug. And imagine giving this drug to your kid at 12. Imagine you would never, right? We'd never give them that. So this is different today compared to what you guys had to deal with. And then that invasive content access. Pornography, sexuality is coming after your kids. Again, pornography, sexting. Again, a few years ago, one of the students, he said he was getting rid of social media, specifically Instagram, because he said it's Insta porn. That's what he said. It's just total Insta porn. He said, my parents have a filter on it, but you can get around the filter through Instagram. And you can just search it. If you guys ever want to see how to get around things, just go ahead and search how to get around filters. There's people that have trained people to get around filters. So it's invasive. So pornography, sexting, we've talked about that. Modern Family. You remember this TV show came out a few years ago? I remember when they first did the advertisements for that show Modern Family. You got gay people together. Again, the next thing now is polyamorous relationships. And that's what our kids today, just like, 2013 gay marriage became the law of the land. Next is going to be polyamorous relationships. Again, when I was growing up, people started living together. And now pretty soon it's going to be one guy and 3 girls. I mean, it's terrible. I mean, my parents in their 70s, they can't believe people live together. Because they grew up as a guy, you had to have 2 things. You had to have a job and get married to have sex with a girl. You had to have a job and get married. And now these girls just sleep with guys. I mean, my parents just can't believe that happens today. And now pretty soon for a girl to get a certain guy, they're going to have to be okay with another girl living with them. And we think that's inconceivable. Of course that's coming. That's what sin does. It always keeps going. So we've talked to our kids about polyamorous relationships and what that looks like, because that's what they're going to be hearing about as they go on into their college years. So what is the same? God's design for sexuality. The Bible hasn't changed. God still wants consensual sexual relationship between a man and a woman in covenant marriage. That's his ideal. That's his view. What hasn't changed is mankind's lustful desires. The word lust in the Greek is in the mind. Okay, so lust, it's in the mind. People still lust. Those guys at Glen Rose, they were lusting at that girl in the bikini. They liked how that girl looked. So lust is still there. All it takes is one guy, one girl to look at something on the computer, on the phone, and they get drawn into that world. So that's still around. But then we have our parents, our spiritual responsibility to protect our kids. So do you guys protect your kids in the household? I want you to think about all the ways the devil is trying to get into your household. The TV, friends, sleepovers, phone, the bus ride at school. Again, I remember taking the bus to school, and this guy had this magazine called Boy's Life. You guys ever hear of Boy's Life? Kind of a Boy Scouting magazine. And he's like, hey, do you want to see this? Sure. I opened it up, and it was a porn magazine. He had taken off the cover from the Boy's Life, put a Playboy in it, and so he was reading Boy's Life? No, he was looking at a porn magazine. Again, this kind of stuff the devil is just trying to get into our kids' life, and our responsibility is to be overprotective. You guys tell you that? You guys need to be overprotective with your kids. I don't allow perverts in my home. Would you guys allow a pervert off the street to come into your home? Do you guys allow perverts to come into your guys' home? What do you guys think about? Do you guys allow perverts? Do you guys allow certain shows in your house? Do you guys allow sleepovers with people? You think you trust them. You think you know them. Yeah, my good friend is a guy named Ryan Tomlin. He's a principal at Lindale. And growing up, his parents let him go to his friend's house once a month and spend the night at the house. And the dad was a good guy. The kids were a good guy. And Ryan said, I would go to the house and we'd watch porn videos all day. The dad was a porn guy. Would literally watch porn videos. And his parents never dug in. His parents never asked the tough questions. Horrible stories, right? But they're true stories. And you guys have your own stories. Your responsibility is to protect and not allow perverts to get in your kid's life, and talk to them about it and share with them. Getting practical. You got to fight for sexual integrity in your home. Use this word integrity compared to purity. Integrity means to become whole, right? It's holistic. It's 360. You want your kid to be able to share with you when they stumble, when they fall. First time my son Zach stumbled, he literally had to write it out. He wrote on a piece of paper, and he said, Dad, can you read this? He said, can you read outside the room? So I read what he wrote, and then I went back in and talked to him. I'm going to share with you guys kind of how I talked to him there, but you got to be prepared for your kids to fail. They are going to be exposed to something bad, something sinful. We don't hope for it, but it's going to happen. They're going to see something, hear something, view something. Someone's going to share something with them, but you got to prepare. They are going to fail. And when they fail, how are you going to respond? Third one there, don't have the talk, have the conversation. So when it comes to my son, the question I always ask, hey, Zach, how's your temptation doing? How's your temptation with sex doing? How's your temptation with beautiful girls doing? How's your temptation? I ask him that almost every night when he goes to bed, because we still try to tuck our kids in, have a moment with them there. But how's that temptation going? My wife, Lisa, asked me this. Hey, Heath, how's your temptations doing? Okay, that's a common, we don't have the talk. The days of having the birds and the bees talk is done because of the invasive sexual messages everywhere. So I want to encourage you, if you have not been having the conversation with your children, you can start tonight. You just start tonight. Okay? And how do you start? You share your own little struggle when you were a teenager. You share when you saw something, when you heard something, when you did something. You just make it as normal to talk about sex as you do about sports. Normal to talk about sex as you talk about whatever it is, whatever you enjoy talking about. It should just be normal. Because what you're also doing is you guys are helping put a philosophy of parenting in your kid's life. Some of you guys wish your parents would have talked to you a little more about sex. You wish they would have done that. Start doing it now. So that when your kids are parents, they know what they can do with their kids. All right. So my son, Zach, is 18. He's an adult. He's graduated high school. I'm not going to stop being my spiritual responsibility. I'm still going to help him as he goes through stuff. And the fourth one there is focus on their relationship with Jesus. You guys remember the True Love Waits campaign? True Love Waits campaign. So they did a big old analysis of kids that went through that. Kids that went through that compared to kids that didn't go through that. The amount of sex that they had didn't change at all. It didn't change at all. And here's the reason why. Number 4. The people that led that, even though the people wrote the curriculum, they put that in there. Us as humans, we naturally want to focus on the do's and the don'ts. You know, don't do this, do this. And so that's why when it came to that conversation I had with the boys at Glen Rose, I talked to them about what kind of boys do you guys want to be? Do you guys want to have the views of God when it comes to women? Or do you want to live in the flesh when it comes to women? You have to go back to number 4 of why we want to be people of integrity. Confess your sins one to another and then pray for healing. So when my son Zach confessed his sin to me, we prayed for healing because the enemy wants to keep things us in shame. So I encourage you to think about that. Unless I'm wholeheartedly pursuing a relationship with Christ, all other relationships will be a hopeless attempt to fill that void. And people do that with boyfriends and girlfriends. People can even do that with friends. They're hoping that person will like them. That person will invite them into their clique. That person will invite them. But if you don't have Christ thriving in your life, those people are going to disappoint you. Those people are going to let you down. We know that as married people, right? Our spouse cannot fulfill all of our needs. God did not design that. God designed for Christ to do that for us. All right, so let's talk a little about pornography. What is pornography? Jesus here, you've heard that it was said, do not commit adultery. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So girls are struggling with lust at a far higher rate than when you guys were around, okay, as teenagers. And the reason they're struggling with it more is because they're being, invaded with all the sexual talking. So when this was happening here in Jerusalem, there was all these guys that were on the Jerusalem walls, and girls were walking by, and girls weren't even walking by in bikinis. You know, guys can lust after a girl in a snowmobile suit, right? Girls were in there in big old gowns, and guys were lusting as these girls were walking down the city streets in Jerusalem. And Jesus here gives the ideal here: do not lust after a woman, even in your own heart, even in your own mind. So this is pornography. Pornography is anything that we use for sexual titillation. You guys like to be tickled? Anybody like to be tickled in here? That's what pornography does, right? It tickles, and then some people that get tickled, they can't stop laughing. And that's what pornography does. Get you a little bit, and then you want more and more and more. Titillation, gratification, or escape, whether it was intended for that purpose or not. So the first time I saw pornography, I was with my friends. We were going out in the wilderness. We lived by several hundred acres where I grew up. And we came to this fort. And there was this fort on the ground. And we opened up the fort, and there was all these magazines on the ground. And I remember looking, and there that girl, there she was. And I can still see her 40 years later. There she was. And we closed the fort, and I remember running back home and telling my mom, because my dad wasn't home. Like, Mom, we were just walking, my heart was beating. We saw this, and my mom got so upset at me. Right there, she trained me, don't ever talk to her about those kinds of things. She had the wrong response. She hadn't thought through how to respond when your kid tells you things, what to do. Have you guys thought about how you're going to respond when they see this, when they do this, when you got to think about how you're going to respond so that they want to keep talking to you? You know what is pornography? Have you guys ever seen these little TV-MA? Okay. Adult content, adult language, graphic violence, nudity, sexual situations. Have you guys made a decision yet what you're going to allow your kids to see? See, it's one thing if your kids sees it. It's another thing is the spiritual authority actually introduces it to them. We as parents, we don't want to do that. So my family, my wife and I grew up addicted to TV. Okay, I grew up addicted to TV. I used to plan out my whole week. Growing Pains, Family Ties, Cosby Show. Used to plan all that. And then when my wife and I, we got married, we decided we don't want our family to be about all these shows. And so we haven't watched, we haven't watched any, we don't watch any dramas, any sitcoms, nothing at all. Until a few months ago. So my wife and I, when we first got married, we watched a show called 24. Okay, it's an older show, Jack Bauer. We thought it was really good. And so because our kids had never seen anything, we're like, why don't we show them something that we watched like 20 years ago? So we started watching 24, and we had to turn it off in the first scene. And so I failed. I failed there as a parent because I could have went and looked at the reviews, but our memories are bad. We look at, oh, yeah, that was a good show. A lot of this, a lot of that. We failed there. And so do you guys protect your kids so they don't see this, so that they stay as innocent as possible? Because remember, their philosophy right now is growing. You get to decide what you want to put in front of them. R-rated movies, strong sexual. Would you guys allow would you allow a guy to come in your house that has strong sexual content? Some nude guy coming into your house? Some guy that talked about sex all the time and what he was going to do? Would you guys allow this? If you wouldn't allow that person, should you allow movies in there? Okay. All I'm doing is just bringing up things that have been brought up to me. And you get challenged on things, but you get to decide what you're going to do there. Then, of course, there's the old videos, stuff online. That's just terrible. Again, I brought up the 50 Shades of Grey, right? This thing happened, came out a few years ago. All this did was treat people to have sex and violence, except they glamorized it, right? Pornography is full of violence, but here they made it cool. They made it Hollywood. They made 4D. They made a romantic story, romantic relationship. But because they introduced this, now people, I wonder if I should whip my girlfriend. I wonder if she'll like that if I whip her. Right? Like, what in the world? This is what the devil is trying to get young people. Like, nobody wants to be whipped. That's what happened to slaves. But they're introducing all these things. Men's fitness, men's health, right? Get your crib sex friendly. Of course, the Cosmo, naughty Q&A. I mean, one of the worst parts of growing up was walking through the Walmart checker. You ever walking through the Walmart and there was all the magazine covers there? You were introduced to all kinds of stuff. Whenever I go to Walmart, just a little trick, I actually turn around the magazines. I turn them around. Virgins in Cosmo, just all this stuff is hammering the students. And so they're getting all these messages. How many messages are they getting from you? You're the spiritual protector. How many messages are they getting from you? Prevalence of porn. 93% of your boys, 62% of your girls are exposed to internet porn before the age of 18. I'll tell you this, there's people in our youth group have never seen pornography. They've never seen it. 14, 15, 16 years old. Pornography and masturbation go hand in hand. Some of the boys in our youth group have never masturbated. Okay, it's not 100%. Some of them just never have. But when it comes to pornography and masturbation, you get to talk to your students about that. If you don't talk to your students about that, one of their friends will. Someone else is going to talk to them about that. They need to hear from you and what you think about that, your expectations, your thoughts about that. The average age of first exposure to internet porn is 11 years old. What grade is that? What grade is that? 5th grade? Around 5th, 6th grade or so? 6th grade? Average is internet is 11 years old. Today, when you walk into the church service, look around. If you see 11-year-olds, that's when they've been exposed to it. 70% of boys have spent more than 30 consecutive minutes looking at online porn on at least one occasion. 30% of boys have done this on more than 10 occasions. Okay, the addiction has already begun in their life. In pornography, it rewires your brain. Totally rewires your brain of how you think about girls and then how you think about marriage. You know, one of the biggest users of Viagra is people in their 20s. Them naturally being aroused, they have a hard time with it because they're addicted to porn. They would rather look at their screen. So what are you guys going to do to make sure this doesn't happen to your students? You got to talk to them about it. You got to talk to them about it. Remember, it's not the talk, it's the conversation. I had to have conversations with them about this. My son, Zach, has never once told me, Dad, you talk to me too much about this. Why? Because he thinks about it every day. He thinks about sex every single day. I cannot talk to him enough about this because I'm there to help him. I'm there to be a resource for him. 23% of girls have spent more than 30 consecutive minutes. 1 out of 4 girls have spent more than 30 minutes. Okay, that is not dabbling. That's not coming across. That is being entrenched, looking at this, being captivated by this. Why? Because with girls too, it's a drug. Pornography is a drug that gets them enticed to it. Prevalence porn, again, happening at a younger age, happening to a larger group, happening at a greater frequency. The male and the female gap is narrowing. Narrowing. My wife, Elisa, was never tempted to look at pornography. Okay, never, just never. There's people that have never been tempted. It's gross to them. They want nothing to do with that. And most people, when they first look at it, they know it's wrong. But again, they get enticed by it. Instead, you need to help your sons look forward to being enticed by their wife's body. That is the Song of Solomon. That is the book of Proverbs. May her breast satisfy you always. It's not just say no, it's just not yet. Okay, Zach, your day is coming. Your day is coming where you are going to be drunk with your wife. That is a healthy biblical way to think about it. And then the wife in the same way. So again, there's something to look forward to, but right now they discipline. They discipline themselves. Of course, we talk about the distorted. Again, it's extremely addictive. Again, if you have a story of looking at pornography, it's okay to talk to your children about that. Rewires your brain. Secret shame. They look at it, and then they want to write out what they did and give it to their dad. Right? It's the Adam and Eve. They do something, they feel that shame and they want to hide. Guilt is natural. You sin, you did what God did not want you to do. Guilt is normal. Shame is not normal. Why? Because us as Bible-believing Christians, when we sin, we go confess. We confess to God, and then we confess to somebody and pray for that healing. We want to help your students come confess to mom and to dad, okay? My daughters have never confessed to me. They have a mom for that. My son, Zach, has never confessed to mom. They have a dad for that. It's normal, okay? For people to confess to the more comfortable parent that they have. Well, our time has come to an end. Does anybody have any questions, any thoughts about anything that we shared today? Hey, yes.
Porn, there's a strong correlation with sex trafficking too.
Yes, it is.
Always good to be aware of it for children.
Yep, people that look at pornography, they're actually encouraging sex trafficking. Any other thoughts like that? Any questions about anything? Yes.
Is there material that you would recommend that we walk through with our kids?
Yes. When my son was, Zach, when he was like 11 or 12, we went through the Focus on the Family, the Passport to Purity. We went through the Passport to Purity with him. Josh McDowell has a video called Just One Click. Okay, it's called Just One Click. It's on YouTube. This video is very graphic because it shows exactly what pornography does. It just shows a little boy, like a 10-year-old, looking on his iPad, and his mom walks in and says, "Hey, what are you looking at?" Nothing. And he's looking at porn, and then it just shows what porn did in the household. His dad's looking at porn, so it shows these girls all over him, but it's just showing what porn actually does. So I showed that to my son, Zach, probably around 13 years old. Just let him see, Zach, this is what the devil is intending for you. Okay, this is what the devil wants to steal, destroy your life. God has a different way. So I'm proud of my son. My son, throughout his years, he has been one that is living the sexual integrity. Okay, the sexual integrity. That when he stumbles, when he falls, when he sins, he comes and makes that right. So that video, I encourage you guys this fall. We're going to start that sexual series in October. In October, for you guys to come with your student. Encourage you to do that. What's that website? It's leaving my mind right now. The new drug. What's that? It's called Fight the New Drug. Fight the New Drug. Again, they don't say they're a Christian organization, but they are Christian messages. But Fight the New Drug are people that were addicted to pornography, and they're pretty much trying to help people get out of it, get away from it. Another resource is being around these students. You know, Pastor Austin, he can't believe our youth group because he was part of other youth groups. And so many of our students here, they have a desire for purity. They have a desire for holiness. They have a desire to want to do God's will. And because of the parents. I mean, we just have a culture here of parents that are trying to be that spiritual, leader in their student's life. Another thing, I had my son read Ed Cole's book, Not Maximize Manhood. Ed Cole wrote a book about sex. It's like the sex code, the sexual man. Anyway, Ed Cole wrote this book, and it's a powerful book about a guy that got married, and he came to the wedding, and he wanted to wear a white tux. He wanted to wear a white tux, and the mom did not want, his mother-in-law did not want him to wear a white tux because only the bride gets to wear white. But he said, when I was like 12, 13, I committed to be a virgin until I got married. And so I want to go to my wedding day and have a white tux because I've been pure before God in my body. And I had Zach read that just so he has a view and image from other people. Another thing is to try to get your kids, another resource, get your kids around as many wholesome people as possible, because our kids do get tired of hearing from us, right? Hearing mom and dad saying this. So again, whenever you can have them hear from other people that reinforce your ideals is powerful. Any other questions or thoughts? All right, so here's your assignment this week. Your assignment is to talk to your young people about sex, okay? Or your grandchildren. I see some grandparents in here, okay? Again, as I talk to people more my age group in their 40s, they just wish their grandparents would have talked to them more instead of taking them out for ice cream, instead of taking them bowling, instead of doing all the fun stuff. That's what grandparents do, right? They do fun stuff. But man, it would have been powerful, my two granddads, if they would have talked to me about their sexual ideals, their sexual philosophy. I would have been a teenager like, why is he talking to me about this? But it would have helped me. It would have helped me if they would have done those kinds of things. So if you're a grandparent, think about that. The parents decide when you're going to talk to your kid. And again, you start lighthearted. Or if you haven't talked to your kid in a while, it's time to re-engage that. You go and talk to them again about this. Okay, go and do that. You might want to get that Ed Cole book. Again, there's all kinds of books. You might want to go through that book with him. So Zach and I, when I had him read the Ed Cole book, we just talked about the chapters. Right? There's so many good books. So let me go ahead and pray over you guys today. Lord, I do thank you that you would empower all of us to have that mind of Christ. Jesus, that you would help us to speak truth with love, gracefully. Lord, those parents in this room right now that have resistant teenagers or their teenagers are getting engaged in ungodly things, Lord, that you'd help them shepherd their sons and daughters. Lord, that they would be the hero to their sons and daughters. Lord, that they would run after the hard things. God, they would talk about the difficult things. Lord, that they would see themselves as that guardian. Lord, they are truly a guardian of their kids' galaxy. And Lord, they would prepare their young people for the things that are happening today and also in the future. Lord, we pray for that wisdom. God, you said if we ask for wisdom, you'd give it to us. God, give them wisdom this week. God, give me wisdom this week. Lord, to be able to help our young people to stay strong in you. Lord, we pray for humility in our students. Lord, that they would not get caught up in shame, but Lord, they would feel that healthy guilt from you. And God, then they would run to you for forgiveness and also run to us, Lord, that they can confess that sins to us. Lord, that you'd help us to respond in a loving manner. Lord, there might be deep regret, deep disappointment on the inside of us, but Lord, we would not allow our face, our countenance to show that to our young people. But Lord, they would realize that we are a safe place. We ask you for all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen, everybody. We'll see you back here next Sunday, 9:45. Thanks so much.